I'm going to show you a little bit how I start the flying changes on a horse, and this horse is still learning the flying changes. There's lots of different ways different patterns to use to start the flying changes, but the main thing is that you have to really work on your canter, walk, canter transitions, because your canter, walk, canter transitions is basically what a flying change is. So I'm going to start off here on the right lead. I'm going to make a transition to right lead canter. And what I'm looking for in my canter, walk, canter transitions, I'm really focusing on the first stride of canter, that I want a nice big forward stride from the hind leg of the horse, and that he takes the canter immediately from the walk. Okay, so when I'm working on this walk to canter, I'm thinking the first stride, so that was nice. The first stride of canter I was happy with. He stayed round, he went smoothly into the canter, he stepped forward and through with the hind leg. And so if you can't get a nice smooth walk canter, you're not going to be able to get a good flying change. So I'm going to collect and walk. You got a little brace there. And then again, I'm focusing on that first canter stride, that he lifts and stays round and goes right into the canter. Now, once I'm in the canter, I'm thinking about my canter quality, that I can adjust it, that I can rock him a little back, and then that I can go a little forward, and then that I can bring him back again, because you have to have lots of control of the canter to do a flying change. Now I'm going to do the same thing on the left lead. So I'm testing my walk canter transition on both leads before I try the flying change. And my canter walk could be a little better. You see he gets a little strong and bracey. So whatever problems you have in your walk canters are the problems you're going to have in your flying change. So for example, if your horse braces the neck and puts their head up, they're going to do the same thing in the flying change. If your horse doesn't want to take the left lead, you're going to have a problem with your left change. If your horse doesn't take the right lead, you're going to have a problem with your right change. If your horse doesn't come through enough from behind, you're going to have a problem in your flying change. And that, I'm going to rein him back after that transition, because he really didn't rock back into the walk. He just kind of fell on the forehand. There, good boy. Okay, so now that I've done a little with my walk canters, I'm going to start towards my flying change. I always start on the easier change first. So this horse is easier for him to change right to left. They'll want to change onto the lead. Whichever lead is easier for them is the lead that's going to be easier to get the change to. Okay, so I have a nice canter going to the right. Now, this horse anticipates a lot the changes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a circle and counter canter on the right lead. This is what we call the snowman exercise. In the counter canter, I'm developing balance, I'm developing engagement. Now I'm going to go back on a small circle to the right, and I'm going to start thinking about setting him up for the left change by pushing him a little off my left leg, and then ask for the change. Good boy. So that was what we call the snowman exercise, and that's a great exercise for a horse that, good boy, for a horse that wants to kind of anticipate the flying change and run off. So I'm going to do it one more time on that lead, on the easy side. So I'm going to get my nice small circle right. If you have a dressage court set up, this would be like a 10-meter circle right. Now I'm gonna go on a 20-meter circle in counter canter. I'm working on that engagement, on the balance in the counter canter, that he's not pulling me down. And then I'm gonna go back onto this small circle right. And I'm working on preparing him for that change to the left. There. And that was late behind. So I'm gonna repeat it again. So if they're late behind, you have to think a little bit more about the hind leg as you're coming to the change. Have to really move the shoulder over a bit more. But you know, for this stage of his training, I'm not gonna punish him because he did do the change. Boy, that was better. No. Good. So now I'm gonna work on it for the other lead. Are any of those clean? Okay, so at this point, my husband was luckily riding at the same time. And when you're teaching the flying changes, it can be really useful to have an eye on the ground because sometimes you can't tell if the horse is changing clean behind, and sometimes you can't really tell what's going wrong. So his advice to me was that I needed to get Mercurio a little bit more back onto the hind leg so that he wasn't running away. So you can see here I was keeping him more back on the hind leg and making a little bit tighter of a circle. Now there he kind of jumped away from me in the change, which is totally normal when you're first teaching a horse the flying changes, that they'll want to kind of run off a little. And you just get him back onto the pattern. Here I'm making a small circle in true canter back to a flying change. And that was a nice clean flying change. And you noticed how he didn't run off and he stayed right with me.
You saw when you made him turn, and then you got him to sit better?
Yeah. Okay, so I hope this was helpful with the small canter and true lead to the counter canter, and then making the flying change when you come across the middle. And again, as you can see, it was so helpful that my husband was there and was able to help me. And here we're playing with a little piaffe. So good luck.